Welkom by Boermedia. Ons is nog steeds op die onderwerp van hierdie nuwe COVID regulasies wat nou na die 12 uur van 4de Mei 2022 in werking is. Nou, daar's klomp dinge wat nie lekker lyk nie, wat nie mooi lyk nie, wat ons nie verstaan nie. So vanaand het ons hierso vir advokaat Richard Botha ingetrek en ons het 'n diagram op die bord dat ons graag net gou vir jou wil wys en dan daarna gaan ons gou na die wet kyk en ons gaan kyk na die regulasies en ons gaan kyk na watse kragte en magte het hierdie regering om hierdie drakoniese maatreëls dan op ons af te doen. Richard, baie welkom by vanaand se gesprekkie en dankie dat jy tyd gemaak het om vir ons te kom kuier hier in die ateljee.
My plesier en baie lekker om hier te wees.
Dankie. Richard, ons het hierdie ding geteken, hierdie prentjie geteken, die COVID timeline vir die National Health of South Africa. Verskoon 'n bietjie, hy sê Engelse Botha, ek gaan ook so 'n bietjie Engels praat vandag, so ons gaan nog maar so 'n bietjie meng die tale vandag. Goed, so vir die nasionale gesondheidswetgewing van Suid-Afrika. Ja. So wat jy nou gesê het, is dat die National Health Act Regulation for Notifiable Medical Conditions kom van 2003 af.
Dis reg, ja.
Okay, so dit beteken die wet is 'n wet wat regdeur geld. Met ander woorde, ons kan nie van hom hy stop nie, hy hardloop al die pad.
Dis reg.
Dis die tydlyn hierso en dan hardloop ons al die pad.
Ja.
So wat ons nou gaan doen het, is ons het die tydlyn gaan trek van 2003 tot en met 2020 toe die pandemie begin het. En in 2022 het ons nou net Januarie, Februarie, Maart gaan bietjie inzoom op. En dan het ons nog gesê, hierso by die 15de Maart rond, hierso het ons nou het dinge begin gebeur, is ek reg?
Dis reg, ja.
Toe het ons nou begin om te sien dat
met die proposed amendments,
wat toe nou begin inskop het. Wat dan nou begin het om die public participation, ons publieke deelname proses te aktiveer, want
vir 30 dae oor.
Vir 30 dae oorspronklik.
Ja.
Korrek. So toe jy soos jy gesê het, dis die 30 dae public participation wat ons moes gekry.
Van Maart af na 15de April. Onthou daai groot dag in 15de April.
Korrek. En hy het toe nou ook 'n week uitgeskuif toe na die 22ste.
Ja, dis reg.
Ek dink so, hy is toe nou weer ook so bietjie uitgeskuif na die 10de of soveelste April toe. Ja. Maar daar was toe nou 'n kwessie oor die datums gewees dat dit moes nou in steede van 30 dae eerder 3 maande gewees het, as ek reg.
90 dae, ja.
90 dae.
Ja.
Goed. So onthou nou die 30 dae en onthou nou die 90 dae. Goed. Nou, belangrik om te onthou is dat binne die pandemieperiode praat ons van 'n Disaster Management Act. En dis die Disaster Management Act wat ek weet die Vryheidsfront Plus in die begin tydperk al gesê het, wow, julle misbruik nou hierdie Disaster Management Act. Kom 'n bietjie terug.
Ja.
Jy weet, julle kan nie so lank aanhou met hom nie, maar
hulle is eintlik op pad hof toe.
Korrek. Maar toe hulle
nou, toe kom hierdie aankondiging.
Dis reg, dis
eindig. And that whole case then basically became mute.
Goed.
Because it's the state of disaster was coming. But actually there was a lot of pressure over there that I think that they were feeling at that stage around everyone that wanted to actually question the state of national disaster.
Ek verstaan.
Ja.
Maar ek wil net graag vir die kykers verduidelik dat ons het nou praat van binne die pandemieperiode geld nou die Disaster Management Act. So alhoewel ons die National Health Act Regulations het vir die NMC's, en onthou nou NMC's is 'n term wat jy nog baie gaan hoor. Wat is dit in Afrikaans? Aanmeldbare
jy
mediese
die Engelse.
Ja, jy moet my help. So NMC's is Notifiable Medical Conditions, soos ek dink is die aanmeldbare mediese toestande.
Klink reg.
Goed.
Ja.
As ons dan daarna kyk, dan sien ons dat daai wetgewing word dan nou as gevolg van die disaster waarin ons is, die noodtoestand, word die COVID regulasies nie ingebring, is reg.
Dis reg.
Maar die COVID regulasies rus op hierdie wet.
Dis reg.
Maar nou wil hierdie ouens die wet gebruik om hierdie COVID regulasies nou weer as proposed amendments te gebruik.
Well, no. What happened? All these regulations that you had over there, a lot of what was in those regulations and the extended regulations are the same as what's being proposed. So these regulations, as well as what was found in the extended regulations, are now being mirrored in the proposed amendments to the MMC.
NMC,
You see,
okay.
so it's basically
So it's not-
taking these powers and putting them there.
Okay. But dis nie eintlik verkeerd nie. Binne die normale konteks van 'n noodtoestand is dit mos maar hoe dit werk, is dit nie?
Nee.
Nee. Verduidelik hoekom.
Wel, jy sien, al hierdie wette wat geskep is,
Wette of regulasies?
or regulasies, all the regulations that are established under the state of disaster are there to manage the state of disaster.
Goed.
Once the state of disaster comes to an end, then all those regulations fall away.
Okay. Goed, so met ander woorde wat ons vir mekaar sê dat op die 30 dae verlengde periode wat ons gehad het, nadat die state of disaster geënt het, hy het basies geëindig, né?
Ja.
Daai 30 dae was dan nou, wat was dit geweest? Wie was in charge of, nog steeds Kokta, die minister
you see,
van...
these 30 days they claimed would still fall under the Disaster Management Act. The problem is, if you look at the act itself, any extension of regulations is for restoration. To give you an example.
So, dit is veronderstel om restoration te wees.
Yes.
Goed.
To give you an example, with let's say what's happened in KwaZulu-Natal right now. You've had this disaster that happened. You've had all the floods and everything that happened. And you need to, as part of the disaster plan, you need to restore the water. You need to do all these things. So you quickly
And build bridges and build pipes and
you quickly
whatever.
do all those things and you get it all into place. But what might happen is there might be some restoration that remains after you've gotten everything up and running. There might be some restoration that remains that needs to be done. So what you do is you end the state of disaster because that state of disaster is over. But the restoration of certain things get extended beyond the point. That's what that is about. Now, if you look at the disaster management or the disaster of the pandemic, what is those things that could have extended? Well, the payment for those people that lost their jobs and everything, that 385 rand,
Correct.
that could have been extended. Or any of those sort of things that are more restorative, but nothing to do with the actual control of the pandemic, because the pandemic's over now.
Met ander woorde, hulle mag dalk nou redeneer en sê, maar ons wil keer dat die volgende pandemie nie opkom en daarom moet jy nog steeds maskers dra, social distancing,
No.
gatherings
You see,
and
the
everything.
pandemic is over.
Based on
When
the
you declare,
disaster management.
When you declare the pandemic over, when it comes to notifiable medical conditions, if a notifiable medical condition emerges that isn't a pandemic, then you fall back on this act. And this is running all the way. You fall back on these regulations. Okay? So they should have operated under these regulations. But now what they want to do is for COVID-19 specific, they've made amendments which were the regulations over here under the disaster they want to put in here.
So this is COVID disease regulations they want to bring in here. COVID-19 disease.
Specific. Okay, that's what they're proposing over there.
All right, so now let's talk about this, Richard, about the powers of the minister. Let's call it the minister.
Yeah.
What is the powers of the minister with regards to doing this?
Okay, when it comes to the National Health Act, any amendments made to the National Health Act have to go through Parliament. The minister is given the powers to...
So that is the act, so the
Yes.
law, which is the act, okay?
Yes, okay.
That must go through Parliament.
The minister is given the powers to create regulations. Now, the rules around regulations are, it's got to go for public participation. Okay. Now he's making amendments to the regulations. But just remember, these regulations are subject to
The law.
the Act,
The
powers within the Act. The regulations cannot supersede or extend beyond the powers of the Act. The Act is also subject to the Constitution. So for him to limit rights underneath the Act, it's subject to Section 36, and it has to be a law of general application. So now he's creating laws specific to COVID-19 when there's lots of other diseases in there that are managed under, Ebola is managed under MMC,
And,
which I think Ebola is a far more deadlier disease than COVID. What's the recovery rate on COVID? I think 99.8% or something like that. So there's a very small percentage of non-recovery under COVID. But Ebola.
So Ebola, tell me, and TB and HIV/AIDS, are they all under this one?
I don't think HIV/AIDS.
We'll check. We'll check.
We'll
check. Yes.
I'd have to but Ebola.
But I understand. Yes.
There's some horrible diseases in there that falls under that. COVID is under level 3 of the regulation. Okay, level 1 is notifiable, where if you come across it, you've got to notify government immediately. Level 2, you've got to notify government within a week. Level 3, you've got to notify government sometime. You see, so the urgency isn't really there or anything.
So let's go back to the powers of the minister, and what is your final conclusion with regards to this, the interim regulations that are now in play until the end of the public participation? I don't know
where those powers come from. To be honest, I've looked through the Act.
Yeah.
I don't know where those powers come from. I don't know where he has the right to create interim regulations.
This is the question that we currently have. This is the real question, and that's where other organizations are also currently taking them to court based on this. Am I right?
You see, these are proposed amendments. Now, if we look at the interpretation of the word proposed, it means you are proposing something to somebody. They're going to come back to you, give their comments, and then you're going to come to a conclusion. Yes. So these aren't implemented yet.
But they are now open for public participation, am I right?
Up until, and they've made a mistake there, because they said from the beginning of the notification. The notification was on the 15th of April, so it should actually run to the 15th of July, but it's only running to the 5th.
15th of April, is it not on the 15th of March?
Sorry. So March, so it's April, May,
June. Yeah, so they're giving
they're giving extra.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's fine, yeah.
So that one is fine. All I'm saying is now we just want to find out whether the minister has the powers for this regulation.
For the interim regulation. It was the same as the question over here.
For the extended 30 days.
For the extended powers, yeah.
Richard, if people want to debate this issue with you, can they contact you? Can we send this email address on the screen?
Definitely.
And then we will bring you in contact with Richard as well, if you want to take this. But people, let's take this matter. Let's debate this matter. You're welcome in the comments to debate it. If there are any questions and stuff that is that you're not sure of, laat weet ons, dan kan ons altyd nog met mense gesels. Ons wil graag ook nog met ander organisasies gesels, organisasies wat ons nou weet die regering nou hof toe vat om hierdie kwessies uit te gaan sorteer. Maar dat ons wel bewus is dat die regering so bietjie weer hulle magte en kragte oorspeel, hulle nou basies nou net dit was die National Command Council, hierso voor die eindiging, hierso was dit die en die National
Command Council.
COVID Command Council, en nou is dit maar net hierso vanaf, is dit nou Department of Health, is ek reg?
Dis reg.
So Department of Health is nou verantwoordelik vir die goede hierdie kant toe, en hierdie kant toe was dit nou gewees Zuma. So hierdie kant toe was dit gewees Zuma van Kokta, en hierdie kant toe is dit Department of Health. So ek wil vir julle sê, kom ons veg die geveg, ons gaan nog steeds voortgaan om video's te maak vir julle, om vir julle te kan help, om in die publieke deelname julle kommentare te kan gaan lewer. Tot die volgende keer, mooi bly.